Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Selby and Ainsty Area Planning Committee on the 3rd of November. Can I please confirm, can people in the public gallery please confirm they can hear me? That's great, thank you very much. I'll just explain, my name is Bob Packham, I'm the Vice Chair of this committee. I'm chairing it today because our Chair, Councillor John Catternack, is unwell, and I'm sure we'll all want to wish him a rapid recovery. Thank you. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube so that the public can view and listen to the meeting remotely. And in the interest of openness and transparency, I must also make you aware that it is being recorded and will be available to view on the North Yorkshire Council's website. A couple of housekeeping issues. Mobile phones, can you make sure that they're on silent or turned off, please? Toilets, if you require them, out this door, right and right again. And we have no fire alarm tests scheduled. So if it goes off, we do need to leave the building. And the best way is to go out there and turn left. Thank you. Members and officers and public speakers using the microphones in the chambers, please can you make sure it is close to your mouth and that you speak clearly and loudly. Right, the officers in attendance today to support this meeting are Kelly Dawson, the Senior Solicitor, Emma Howson, Development Management Team Manager, Martin Evans, the Principal Planning Officer, Vicky Day, Highway Development and Adoption Principal, and Dawn Drury, the Democratic Services Officer. Thank you. Before I move to the agenda, I should remind everyone that this meeting is being streamed live publicly and therefore is accessible to a wide audience. In accordance with usual practice at public meetings, I look forward to a respectful debate between members. Thank you. Apologies for absence, please, Dawn.
Thank you, Chairman. We've received apologies for absence from Councillor John Catternack, Cliff Lunn and Steve Shaw-Wright. And we have two substitutes today. Councillor Stephanie Duckett is subbing for Councillor Catternack and Councillor Andy Parascus is acting as substitute for Councillor Lunn.
Thank you. Right, if we can now move to item 2, which is minutes for the meetings held on the 8th of October. Do I have a proposer for those, please? Thank you, Arnold. Right, so that's Councillor Warnecan and Councillor Crane seconding. Can I see all in favour, please? Thank you, they're passed. And declarations of interest. Has any committee members had any disclosures of interest that they want to make? Thank you, Councillor Arthur.
Yes, it's just that my employer, Networkville, is one of the consultees, but it doesn't have any reflection on my judgment on this application, so I can stay and vote. The other thing, I've received some correspondence in the last couple of days relating to this application.
Thank you. I think we probably all received that, have we? No? Okay. Mark? Yeah. Yes, so us three have. Okay, that's best 4 have. That's fine. Thank you. Okay, moving on, we now move to the only application we've got to consider today. Application ZG 2023-1275 FULM, which is land off Egborough Road, Egborough. Can I invite Martin Evans to present the committee report, please? There's a presentation that will be shared on the screen, and any late representations received will be summarised by the planning officer during their presentation. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Chair. A brief verbal update on this item. Since the report was drafted, the applicant has submitted a parking survey of Water Lane and Low Egborough Road, covering the period Saturday 18th of October to Friday 24th of October, and it was taken at 5:30 a.m. each morning. It shows between 2 to 4 vehicles parked on the highway each day at this time. This does not change the recommendation. I'll shortly move on to the presentation. So it's an application by Persimmon Homes for 107 dwellings. I will keep it brief and to the point regarding highway matters rather than repeating the entire presentation from the last meeting. This is the application site. It's the second half of the allocation to be built out. Here you can see the proposed access drawing. Low Eggborough Road would be widened to 5.5 metres to the front of the site, and it would curve into the application site itself, becoming the major road. You can see the pinch point that you all saw on site this morning. It measures at 4.1 on the drawing. It's just under that in reality. It's just below, I think it was 4.04 metres when we measured it on site this morning, but that doesn't have any impact on the recommendation today. And as you can see, slightly further north from the build out, there would be a giveaway line. It means the traffic heading north would have priority over traffic heading south. This is the second highway drawing showing the proposed works just slightly further north up Low Eggborough Road. The light grey on the eastern side shows the proposed highway widening. Highways colleagues have confirmed that the grey area is within the highway limit, which means that it is technically possible for the applicant to do this with the highway authority's approval. As you can see, there's a couple of measured points annotated by the applicant towards the southern area near the giveaway line. It shows the road increasing in width from 5 metres to 5.5, and slightly further north, it increases from 4.8 to 5.5. And there's also a pedestrian crossing, tactile crossing, where Low Eggborough Road becomes Water Lane to the north. And this is the emergency access onto the A19. The only other thing that I'd like to mention is that the local highway authority have been out to measure the visibility displays that are achievable at the Water Lane Selby Road junction. And they've confirmed that 41 metre by 2.4 metre visibility displays are available opposite the shop. And so concludes the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Martin. Can I invite any councillors that wish to question Martin, please? Arnold was first. Councillor Warnecombe.
Thank you, Chair. One of the questions I wasn't going to ask, but I am now. You've read the report about the parking survey. I'm intrigued to know why it was 5:30 in the morning they did that survey. Had they done the survey at the same time we had the site visit today, it would have been a completely different picture. But that's not a question, that last bit, so ignore that. But I'd like to know why it was 5:30. Okay. I've got other questions. I don't know whether you want me to read them all, Chair.
I think we'll probably take them one at a time.
Okay,
please.
Right. Thank you.
Yep, the applicant confirmed that it was carried out at 5:30 a.m. because that is the time when most people are at home. So they consider it to be a true read of parking levels overnight. Thank you.
Carry on, Arnold, if you've got any follow-up or any further questions.
Obviously, the benefit of the site visit highlighted something I made a point straight away, and that is that had the two vehicles near the pinch point been parked on the road and not partly on the pavement, I was really concerned about what space that left. And I'm not talking about how much a tape measure tells us is left. I'm talking about the size of people's vehicles, the quality of the parking, the reality is what I'm asking about. Are the officers convinced that had they been parked correctly, that it would allow enough space for an emergency vehicle to get past?
Hi. I think one thing to bear in mind is the road is actually going to be widened, so the situation wouldn't be as you saw it today. But as it stands today at 4.8 metres for the carriageway, you can get a car and a HGV past each other, apart from at the pinch point, but you would be able to do it.
You. I'm still a bit concerned because the wider you make a road, the more opportunity there is for people to park on both sides of it. So what we might be doing is encouraging people to park on the pavement on both sides of this road, and that is not an ideal situation to create. Next question is: do we require, given that all the signs that were on site today, do we require any CPOs to get the road width at all, or is it all highways?
Yeah, based on correspondence with the local highway authority and mapping that they've shown today on the site, all of the land necessary to widen the carriageway is within the highway limit, so there's no need for compulsory purchase orders. Thank you.
Councillor Arthur.
And Chair, the first question is, you say the main entrance will be Low Eggborough Road with emergency exit onto the A19. Is there any way in which more could be made use of the A19 to make that the entrance?
I don't think that's something that the local highway authority wanted to encourage as the everyday access to the site. They are accepting of it as an emergency access, and there may be some arrangement to be made during the construction phase. But if you decide to grant planning permission tonight, and the site's built out, yeah, the everyday access would be Low Eggborough Road.
The second one is, will the Section 106 agreement money for the bus enhancements lead to more services at peak commuter times?
Just bear with me. I just want to look through the agenda to give you an accurate answer to your query. Right, the contributions as listed in the report, it's for, quote, bus service enhancements, end quote. So it doesn't specify precisely what type of enhancement that will be, whether it's increased frequency or at certain times of day, whether it's commuters. It's quite open-ended at the moment. So I think it's basically what best suits the service, in the opinion of the local highway authority and council. Thank you.
So I was looking for something along those lines, but I couldn't see it myself, so that's why I asked the question. And the last one is, whilst we need housing, we also need food. Is there any likelihood that this land could be brought back into agricultural use at some stage in the future?
But ultimately, it's down to the landowner. Obviously, it isn't at the moment, and we don't control what the applicant does with the land going forwards.
Councillor Paraskos.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a couple of questions. I get on my hobby horse about the affordability. Was the sustainability evaluation done on this site? Because we're only asking for 10%, or we're only offered 10%. Was this commissioned by North Yorkshire, or are we just going on the applicant's assessment of this site?
Just bear with me again. I want to be able to point towards the relevant section of the report. So this is the affordable housing is dealt with in paragraphs 10.83 onwards of the report. Just to summarise that for you, officers have taken the approach of, in essence, adopting inspectors' approach from two recent hearings that we had. We fought both cases, large housing sites, both appeal hearings. We tried to push for more affordable housing. The inspectors found quite firmly in favour of using the now cancelled emerging Selby local plan evidence base. There's a report in there by a company called Aspinall Verdi. and it in essence splits the former Selby district into two, a 10% zone and a 20% affordable housing zone. And this site sits in the 10% zone. So the officer approach is to follow that report and the two appeal decisions, and it comes out with a recommendation to yourselves tonight for a 10% affordable housing.
Thank you, Chair. I believe the old local plan had up to 40%. So how did we end up at this stage where we've got two zones, one of 10% and one at 20?
So to support the now cancelled local plan, the council had to look at the viability. And that obviously that piece of work took place, and the professional advice that we received was that there is a 10 and 20% zone, and we've started using that approach. So the development plan policy says up to 40%. It does not have a minimum affordable housing requirement. So and what we found at the hearings is it's very difficult to tell an inspector that a proposal is contrary to a policy that says up to a certain number. If it was a minimum of, it might be more straightforward to say it's contrary to that policy. So the evolved officer position is that we need to follow the latest viability information and the most recent relevant appeal decisions, and that's what you've got before you in the agenda tonight.
Thank you. Just one more. We whipped through the presentation. I didn't see a planting scheme or landscaping map. Do you have one? Or
We have an illustrative landscaping plan at the moment, so that indicates the location of planting, but the precise detail is subject to condition. So we, in the future, under the condition, we'll get to know the species, for example, and what standard the tree is.
right, because there was also, sorry, Chair, I'm coming back again, because there is off-site biodiversity net gain. How we're monitoring the off-site and how we're monitoring the on-site to make sure that it is actually met. It's all right conditioning it, but if we don't actually monitor it and condition it, because I did notice there was a fee charged. Who's charging the fee for monitoring the B&G?
Right. Yes. So in order, the on-site biodiversity net gain will be dealt with by condition, and the off-site BNG would be secured via the legal agreement. For the off-site stuff, that's the only way to do it. And in terms of the monitoring fee, those fees, that scale of fees, has been worked up by our colleagues in the ecology team, and they've worked out how much it's likely to cost the council to look at the monitoring reports that will be submitted in the future, and they've come up with the cost based on officer time, and that's what you have before you in the agenda today. That's the £2,522 cost. Thank you.
Thank you. I just got one question, please, Martin, just for clarification. You mentioned that this was the second part of allocation Egg 3. It does also include a parcel of land that wasn't within that allocation, doesn't it?
Yes, Chair, that's correct. The north-eastern small section, I have detailed this in the report. Yeah, overall, it's quite a small proportion of the number of dwellings that's proposed. That portion of the site, whilst it's outside the allocation, it is within the development limit, and that's covered in the report. And we've explained why, in officer opinions, that section of the proposal is also acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Warren, can you have another question? Fine.
When we were on site, I heard another member ask a question about public access and footpath or something, and it made me think: is this site, as it stands, going to allow that onto the as you're looking down the site, the properties to the right hand side? Because there's where the roads. There's discussion about from a member of the parish council about where there was velixes and that the properties on that side. Is there going to be pedestrian access from that part of the land into this new development?
There isn't any access proposed from the already developed Harron Home site into the application site, because it's tied up with the same issues as the vehicular access. There's a section in the report that deals with the ransom strips and the other issues that, in officer's opinion, stops the pedestrian links through as were intended by the allocation policy.
Are we all done? Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to public speakers now then, please. Remind the public speakers, of which there are 4, that they have 5 minutes each to speak to us. Dawn will use her very high-tech system to tell you when you've got 30 seconds left and 10 seconds left. It cost a lot of money, that, so don't sniff at it. So I'd like to call the first speaker, who is an objector, Mr. Colin White, please. You have 5 minutes, Mr. White.
Thank you, Chair. Since 2008, the village has more than doubled in size and traffic has increased incredibly due to industrial units opening and construction traffic. We regularly have 50 plus HGV movements within the village every hour, even though there's a 7.5 ton weight limit restriction in place. This application, should it be passed, would add greatly to that in terms of HGV movements and significantly add to vehicle movements throughout the day. Projected movement figures provided by Persimmon are pie in the sky and shouldn't even be considered. They're so laughable. When Harron Homes first applied to build, there was a restriction placed on the site to prevent overuse of the junction at Water Lane with Selby Road because it was felt to be unsafe. Nothing has changed. There was also mentioned that access to Egg 3 should be from Egg 2, which is the Harron Homes development. That's mysteriously disappeared. How can that have happened unless somebody has tampered with the documents? The last time the drain which runs through the site was cleared, the digger had to be unloaded on Selby Road because the low loader couldn't get round the corner, leaving considerable marks on the road, as you can imagine. What provisions are provided in the site, in the application, for keeping that drain clean? The site was first applied for by Countryside, and Highways at that time said that access from Low Egborough Road was unsafe. The application was withdrawn. The site was also withdrawn from the new Selby local plan, and neither was it on the last plan that NYCC put out. How then can the planning officer say this is a recognised site? It also includes parts which were not on the original Egg 3 site, as said. If it were considered unsafe once, why is it suddenly okay now? Nothing has changed. However, things have changed with regard to Selby Road and the junction with Water Lane. The Methodist Chapel has functions 2 or 3 times a week, and vehicles park outside on Selby Road and Water Lane. Last Monday, I took a photograph of a large low loader illegally parked on one side of the road, cars on the other side, making it difficult for traffic to get through, and traffic to egress from Water Lane. Display at the junction was noticed by Vicky Day when we met with her. She expressed her concerns about it not being good enough. Whenever I've met her, I've always found her to be a conscientious and diligent person who knows her job. She's always given us the impression that she had reservations about the safety of the access. Yet now it seems to be okay. It would seem to an outsider that pressure is being put on her, either by North Yorkshire County Council or by planning officers, to get this application through at all costs, irrespective of any safety issues. Residents on Low Egborough Road have at times had letters telling them the refuse lorry can't get through. They're unable to gain access to collect the rubbish. How will they manage if this application is granted? The farmhouse that Persimmon want to demolish is one of the oldest in the village. Its removal would significantly change the character of the village. There will be little or no objection other than the proposed building of 2.5-storey houses, which are not in character with the rest of the village, if access was from the A19 via an island at the southern end of the development, or even through the Harron Homes development, who are willing to apply a section 38 for access through, and the top end used as pedestrian access only. Persimmon seem hesitant to do so, but what do you expect from greedy developers who only go for 10% affordable housing? And if granted, will probably go for a Section 73 to alter conditions to remove it as they can't afford it. I've seen it so many times with developers, yet they're allowed to get away with it. The pinch point is measured at the site is less than the required width for 2 vehicles to pass. In the interest of the safety of villagers, visitors and their cars, I urge you to reject this application as unsafe. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. White. Spot on time. Very good. The next speaker is Parish Councillor Martin Spencer, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to speak at this meeting. I'm Martin Spencer, Chair of the Edward Parish Council. Thank you again for your time this morning to attend the site visit, which was requested over a year ago, but that was declined by the planning officer. The site visit was requested for you to see firsthand how the road is, as the pictures supplied by the planning officer do not accurately portray the reality of using this road as access for the site. Also, that common sense will prevail following your visit. I hope that you all had time to read and understand the report from Walton's planning lawyers sent to you on Friday, as this should indicate that the process followed currently is not correct according to your own policies, and the consequences from passing this application could result in malfeasance on behalf of the council. Optima's plans inaccurately record road width, showing 4.1 at the pinch point, and as measured today, it was just over 4 metres. The northern section of Low Eggborough Road is definitively limited to 5.18 metres by the property boundary at Sunnymead, where carers are attending numerous times throughout the day, as there is a drop curb there, making the proposal widening to 5.5 unachievable. We think a rather stark statistic that should be taken into account is if this development goes ahead, and the increase in the number of dwellings using this road will be 595% increase on what currently access that road. This surely should ring alarm bells with any planning council. Planning on Low Eggborough Road and Water Lane have historically been restricted due to safety concerns and the road's rural nature. Previous applications were significantly reduced and bollards were installed to limit traffic. Given these constraints, approving an additional 107 houses now appears unsafe, especially since conditions haven't improved and the proposal was initially rejected by the highways officer. The exit from the site, having right of way over the current residents on Low Eggborough Road, will inevitably cause issues as residents will exit the site at a higher speed than the road can accommodate. And it is dangerous for vehicles that have just passed through the proposed giveway, vehicles exiting from Georgia's, which was on the left where the giveway line was, and also the vehicles reversing out of White House Avenue. Not to mention Cranbrook opposite the site entrance is on a junction. Visibility displays at Water Lane Selby Road junction are questionable, as initial plans failed to meet highway standards, although apparently later achieved, with no actual changes in the site at all or on the junction. I personally went to measure the visibility displays using the Manual for Streets formula, and I came up with a 38.4 metres, not the 41 that was shown by Optima. Delivering large machinery to the site via Low Eggborough Road requires an articulated low loader, which can be up to 3.6 metres wide. Given the road's width of 5.18 metres, this only leads 1.58 metres clearance, less than the width of common cars like a Fiesta or a Golf. The turning on Water Lane to Low Eggborough Road is more than 90 degrees, as is the turning from Selby Road onto Water Lane, both more than 90 degrees. Distinctive issues regards visibility and also access if you're taking an articulated lorry down there. Also, how will these vehicles turn around on the site when the site is being commenced work? They have to go in. There's no other way. The roads aren't being constructed. They need the machinery to be in there to construct the road, but they can't get out. Persimmon have not fully explored the site access opportunities of the site. The highways officer has offered to broker a meeting with Persimmon and Harron Homes to resolve the access issues, but was told by the planning officer that this was not needed anymore, with no reasons given. The Highways Officer also established that Harron Homes would submit a Section 38 form in order for the roads on Harron Homes to be fully adopted up to the boundary. This lack of adoption is stated by Persimmons as a reason why Harron Homes access is unfeasible. The Highways Office also spoken with Taylor Wimpey regarding access through their development of Bowman's Flour Mill, and they are able to accommodate the access to Selby Road as well. The road exists in their plans, as we discussed this morning. Harron Homes are also required by the terms of the planning permission and the deeds of the land sold to adopt the linking roads right up to the Ransom Strip held by Posfits and Huddlestones. Finally, Egborough has been systematically attacked by the Selby Council and now North Yorkshire for development. More doubled in size. Numerous Section 106 millions for development have never resulted in a meaningful improvement to infrastructure over the years. All it achieves is to let the developer state that it's contributed to improvements that are required to get planning permission. I hereby recommend that this is refused.
Thank you, Councillor Spencer. The next speaker is Councillor John McCartney, who is the North Yorkshire Divisional Councillor for Egborough.
Hey, Bob. Again.
Just a reminder, it's 5 minutes, John.
And I haven't started yet.
You'd like to know?
Oh, thank you, Bob. You're so kind. You probably have. Right, I'm going to start now. You ready, Dawn? Right. Persimmons have a history of penny pinching. They are more interested in bonuses for the bosses than building good homes for people. They want to do this site on the cheap to maximise their profits, and planning and highways are simply allowing them to do that. There are 3 other accesses to this site that they could use, but that would cost them money and they don't want to spend money. This site, I've got a lot of say here and I'm going to miss some out because other speakers have said stuff here. This site is part of a large piece of land that was brought forward from the Selby District Plan many years ago, and I was really pleased about that because we needed the homes. But at that time, it was all going to go through from Selby Road. And if this was going through Selby Road now, then you would not be here today. This is all about the cul-de-sac that they want to send the stuff through. I want to move quickly on to a pathetic 10% affordable homes, which I just despair at the people in this country who allow this to happen. 1,601 people in the Selby area have been accepted by North Yorkshire Council as being homeless over the last 2 years. With a 10% affordable housing target, you would have to build 6,000 homes to meet that need. It is nauseating that Persimmons are getting away with providing just 10 affordable homes. We have a housing crisis that is not a shortage of executive homes, it is a crisis because of the shortage of affordable homes to buy and to rent. Sorry about this. Right, so all of the development traffic for this will flow down the narrow cul-de-sac that is Low Egborough Lane. God knows what is going to happen when the huge wagons are down this rural road. Egborough Post Office and the Egborough Methodist Church opposite the site are really busy, and everybody who went today will have seen how busy the road was. I mean, I was quite shocked. I thought somebody had set it up, but they hadn't. That's what it's like every day. We get HGVs coming down to go to the shop on a regular basis, and they're allowed to do that because they're buying something from the shop. It's an absolute nightmare now. And this development, with all the wagons that are going to be bombing round and going down, are just going to make it so much worse. I suspect that we are going to see the grotesque situation when North Yorkshire Council are banning council taxpayers, residents, from parking outside their own homes. And I wrote that last night, and I was shocked to hear the highways officer at the site confirm that they would do that if there was an issue. They would stop people parking outside the home to facilitate Persimmons. North Yorkshire Council are putting Persimmons ahead of the needs of residents. Persimmons will not care that all they are bothered about is money. Remember the Persimmons bonus scandal, £40 million for Mr. Jenkinson, £75 million for Mr. Fairburn. No wonder the homes are so expensive. Egbert doesn't actually need these homes. 44 homes are being currently built by Jones Homes, 500,000 each, and a huge Taylor Wimpey estate is going up in the village. We don't actually need these houses. I'm nearly done, really. If I was here, I would reject it, and I hope you do today. Thank you.
Thank you,
How
Councillor
long was
McCartney.
that done? That's what my
Very,
missus
very
said.
good, John.
No,
Yes.
it was a me.
Then the final speaker, please, is the agent for this application, Mr. Phil Owen, please.
Am I off? Okay. Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Phil Owen, and I am the Managing Director of Optima Highways. I don't work for Persimmon, I'm a consultant, acting on behalf of the applicant. I am responsible for preparing all of the highways-related documentation and drawings associated with the planning application over the last 2 years, which has culminated in reaching full agreement with your local highway authority officers on all highways matters. As you're already aware, this application was deferred at the October committee meeting to allow members to complete a site visit and gain a better understanding of the proposed site access arrangements. My presentation therefore focuses on this matter. Low Egborough Road and Water Lane are both very lightly trafficked, with low traffic speeds and no record of any personal injury accidents. This is all evidenced in documentation. As is typical of any residential street, there is some on-street parking that occurs, but this is very limited and has been demonstrated by recent surveys undertaken over a 7-day period. These surveys, which have been submitted to the council and as was referred to earlier, show worst case overnight parking levels of just 1 vehicle on Low Egborough Road and between 1 to 3 vehicles on Water Lane. These results tally with all of my previous site visits and the fact that the properties along these streets have adequate and ample driveway parking. It also tallies with the site visit I made about an hour and a half ago, just before I came to this committee meeting, where exactly the same number of vehicles were parked. 3 on Water Lane, 2 of which were work vans, and just 1 on Low Egborough Road. In summary, both Low Egborough Road and Water Lane both currently operate safely and satisfactorily, and they will continue to do so post-completion of this development, when only 1 additional vehicle movement per minute will be added to the local highway network during the busiest morning and evening peak hours. Furthermore, it is the case that the development proposals will deliver improvements and a betterment to Low Egborough Road by providing carriageway widening, additional footways, speed reducing measures and crossing points, as well as appropriate visibility displays at the site access, and which are also provided at Water Lane Junction, I might add. The outcome of these improvements will be that a consistent 5.5 metre carriageway will be provided along the improved Egborough Road and the existing Water Lane routes, which connect the site with Selby Road. Such highway geometry complies with the requirements of both national and local highway guidance for streets that serve substantially more dwellings and carry significantly more traffic than either Low Egborough Road or Water Lane ever will. The proposed site access arrangements, including the A19 emergency access, have also been the subject of an independent road safety audit process, the outcome of which was to recommend some minor changes which have been incorporated into the proposals and have subsequently been approved by the local highway authority. As with any development, it is acknowledged and accepted that there will be some increase in traffic flows, but the sustainable and accessible location of this particular allocated site ensures that vehicular trips will be minimised and residents provided with genuine choice of transport modes. As you are aware, this is a fundamental foundation of both local and national planning policy. Furthermore, the extensive detailed work undertaken technically demonstrates that both Low Egborough Road and Water Lane can, safely and satisfactorily accommodate the trips generated by the proposed development. Indeed, the local highway network will be improved. And this is not just my view, it is also the view of independent road safety experts and your own professional highway officers who concluded in their October committee report that, and I quote, "The access via Low Egborough Road is safe and acceptable." And I'll just add that contrary to the first speaker, I also acted for Countryside, and that application was also supported by North Yorkshire highway officers. There are therefore no highway reasons to refuse this application, and the proposals satisfy the requirements of the National Planning Policy Framework, including paragraph 116. Therefore, I respectfully request that you approve the application in line with your officer's recommendation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. We now move to the debate stage. I think just to start that, I think I'd say that the first thing, what we have to consider as councillors is whether any of the problems that we consider exist with the access or any other issues outweigh the benefits generated by the development. Because of a lot of the debate has been on highways, I would encourage councillors, if they're still unsure, to ask questions on highway issues if they feel that would help clarify the position. Right, who's going to start the debate? Councillor Warnock, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to pick up on what Councillor Paraskos has mentioned and Councillor McCartney to do with the affordable housing element. And at other planning committees, we've given consideration to whether actually the percentage is actually a true representation of the percentage. And I just did a quick calculation. And if you do it on number of bedrooms, actually, this 10% becomes 7%. And I have real concerns that we aren't addressing the needs. And so I was wondering if the committee is minded to approve this, are they in a position to maybe go back and ask our affordable housing officer to negotiate a better deal on behalf of the county? Chair.
That did sound like a question to me, so I'd like an officer to answer your question, please. I think it's possibly a legal issue, or would Martin like to have a go?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So just to reiterate, the affordable housing consideration is at paragraph 10.83 onwards. In the Selby legacy area and based on the Selby development plan, we don't do affordable housing based on bedroom numbers. We base it as do it on a percentage of the number of dwellings constructed. And as I said in the last meeting, 10.86 sets out the precise mix of affordable housing, and that has the support of the affordable housing team. Therefore, I don't see what would be gained by going back to them, because they already consider the proposal acceptable. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But in previous meetings, when the same scenario occurred, it didn't prevent us from trying to do what is best. And whilst we might be achieving what is the minimum, I think, having listened to members of the public, read the report, listened to the local member, listened to Councillor Paraskos, I think there is some scope for us maybe to say, could we get a better deal on behalf of? And that's, if we can't go back and ask officers a question, then it's part of our function is not functioning.
I'd like to just make a short comment on that, if I may, councillor. I think the difference between this and the previous application in relation to affordable housing is that previously we have had to go back and ask the question of whether or not the affordable housing officer has considered it and approved it. In this case, the evidence in the committee report is that they have. I merely say that as a matter of fact.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If the suggestion is that we defer and go back to affordable housing officers to try and get a higher percentage, just to reiterate, that basically that's what we were trying to do at the two hearings that I've mentioned. The officers thought there was scope to increase the affordable housing percentage above what we would normally ask for. We fought 2 appeals, one in the village of Hambleton, one in the village of Carlton, and the inspector found against us in both cases. We went, as a council, we went as far as getting our own independent viability expert to look at what the applicants were proposing in those cases and try and push the case for a higher affordable housing percentage, and we lost. Just to reiterate that. Thank you.
Councillor Crane.
Couple of things. But first of all, I've sympathy with what Councillor Warnicking says about affordable housing, but we are where we are, and frankly, we're not going to increase that now. Whatever happens, at least there are some 2 and 3 bedrooms in the affordable. Going forward in the new North Yorkshire local plan, I'm sure there will be a lower limit on the number of affordable houses that we require, and probably an upper limit. And that, of course, may change according to which particular area it is, with North Yorkshire being so large. So I've sympathy with Arnold, but I don't think we can refuse on the basis of affordable housing. I went this morning, as did everybody here I know, and went to see the access, which I would describe as not ideal. But having listened to the highways officer both this morning and read the report, then it's difficult, isn't it, to go against an officer who's paid to do this all the time. The other thing I have to say that's in my mind is what happened to Sherburn recently. I wasn't on the committee the day that we discussed Sherburn. It was refused on highways grounds. And members around the table may be aware that we lost the appeal and the costs were awarded against the council, so significant costs. I would prefer to see the access out of another point, but I don't think we're going to be able to do that. The one thing I wonder is whether lorries accessing the site could use the emergency access, or whether they would have to go down the access that is currently proposed for the 100 houses.
So it is something that I have considered, and at the moment it would be a condition, if you were to approve it, for a construction management plan to be put forward from the applicants. So they would submit that and provide us with what they intend to do for the construction period. So it might be things like they might have time slots to limit the impact on like peak periods and things like that. But the A19, they might come in and suggest that, and it is something we would consider as the highway authority. I think to do it, they would have to change the speed limit, put a temporary speed limit on the A19, but that is something that, you know, we have the powers that we can do that. So, I mean, you're probably looking at the visibility displays I've got there, you'd be looking at something like reducing it to even a 30. But it is a possibility. It's something we could investigate when they submits a construction management plan.
Can I come back on one? One of the speakers, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who, so apologies to whoever it was, talked about the other access points and them being discussed and then refused. And somebody made an unfortunate comment about yourself, Miss Day, which I take a bit of exception to that, to be honest. I don't need to make comments like that. But I just wonder why we are where we are, and we're not looking at other access, a different access point. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think the key thing is that we have to determine the application on its merits, and for the reasons stated in the report, the officer view is that the current proposal is acceptable despite what the allocation policy says. The report looks at going through, getting access through the Harron Home site. For the reasons given, we don't think that's achievable. The other alternative is going through the Bowman's Mill site that you saw under development today. But as I explained on site, when the outline planning permission was granted for the redevelopment of Bowman's Mill, that site effectively turned its back on the application before you today. So there's no way in terms of this application that you're considering today of securing a link through. It would take the two developers sitting down and actually agreeing that they want to provide that access. What your officers are recommending today is that that isn't necessary, and we think the scheme as submitted is acceptable in highway terms. And we couldn't see any alternative accesses that would be suitable beyond what we've considered today. Thank you.
I'll come back and thank Martin for that comprehensive explanation. And having seen the Sherburn appeal, I'm sorry, I would move approval of it today, Chairman, if I can find a seconder, because I think we've got professional advice that what they're suggesting is acceptable. I would like to see construction traffic come in from a different point on the A19 if that were possible. But in my opinion, if we refuse this today in front of an inspector, we've got little chance of being successful. So I would move the recommendation.
Thanks, Mark. I'll come back to you when we finish the debate. Councillor Perez.
Thank you, Chair. I totally agree with Councillor Crane about site traffic coming in from the A19. Can we not just simply condition that? I'm looking at Emma there, or Martin.
So at the moment, the officer advice would be to leave the construction management plan condition in there. It gives the council the option to use the A19 as the construction access if that's something that the local highway authority would agree to today. And I suggest it's left open rather than being specifically controlled at this stage.
Not keen on leaving things open. I'd much prefer to just condition it and then see what happens. Emma's going to come in, tell me I can't do it.
So we shouldn't condition something that might then mean that we can't implement the decision. So if we say they have to use that route and then the highways authority say that's not feasible for certain reasons, then you're conditioning something which then makes that an unimplementable condition. So that's why we're asking you to leave it open at this point.
But would it not have to come back to us? Or this committee, since I'm not on it, technically?
For the construction management plan? No, it's a condition of the application, so it would be dealt with by officers.
That's probably another reason why I'd like it to say come back to this committee. So nothing personal. I just like, we're making a decision on an application on something we don't like. And then for it to just be decided by officers and not discussed in front of a committee, I'd just prefer it to come back to this committee. But Kelly's going to tell me I can't do it now.
Thank you, Chairman. You beat me to it. I was just going to check the terms of reference actually for the committee, which off the top of my head, I don't think that includes the ability to deal with discharge of conditions, which is what this would be if it's dealt with under the construction management plan. Obviously, if it was part of the reserved matters or something, that would be something that committee could request for it to come back to a later committee. I think it would go to how strong a feeling that the committee have. Obviously, the applicants have heard the committee's comments in terms of that construction plan. You've heard the advice from the highways officer of that there are elements that would need to be looked at and assessed and risk assessed as part of that construction plan. Should that be used, the A19 be used for that construction traffic? So it's not quite as straightforward as articulating it into a condition that it must be used for that. There are those bits. But if members are minded that it is something that they really want to see, you could do a minded to and delegate it to officers, and officers could go away and potentially look at whether or not there is potential condition wording that they felt would meet the conditions test. Obviously, you've heard from the planning officer, they've got concerns over it meeting conditions test at this point.
Councillor Duckett.
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement with Andy here. And if Kelly says that's a way that we can do that, because otherwise we're basically letting highways write their own homework, if you like. They've already said it's okay to put them wagons down that little road, which way I'm not happy with. Personally, I'm still in mind when I'm like that on refusal, but I can see that probably wouldn't get through back today. But if Andy, if you'd like to move that we go with this, the minded using the A19 for the construction traffic only.
Do you want to come back, Councillor Paraskos?
I'll probably wait for a little bit more discussion and have a ponder on it, if that's all right, Chair.
That's fine. Okay, is there anyone else that hasn't spoken in the debate that wants to? Councillor Arthur.
Yes, just going back to the A19 entrance, would this be able to be used for things like the dustbin cart that needs to get round, or larger vehicles once the estate's been built?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be. It is just an emergency access, so it'd be there for emergencies only.
Okay, I think I'm the only one that hasn't spoken on this now. Firstly, I'd just like to endorse what Councillor Crane said on affordable housing. I think we are in a difficult position on that. I think it's something we need to be looking at very closely in the North Yorkshire local plan. But we are where we are on this, and we've had the appeal decisions, and we've had the report, and I think we're somewhat in a cleft stick. With regard to highways, I am of the view, and I share it with Councillor Paraskos, that if we could take the access off the main road, then that would alleviate a lot of the issues that would be generated here. So I would look for someone to either move that as an amendment, or first of all, I need to see if someone's prepared to move the officer's report as it stands, with the conditions and the 106. You can.
But just before you move into that phase of the debate, please may I ask, are you purely concerned about the HGV traffic using Low Eggborough Road?
Is it all right if I come in, Chair?
Yeah, of course.
Yep. I mean, the access from Low Eggborough, I know the pinch point is not ideal, but I see the pinch point as traffic calming, because you widen that road, the next issue will be the speeding, because I get that in all my villages. Doesn't matter what's there, speeding is an issue. So I would actually see that as traffic calming, because there's no way you're going to better speed if there's a give way on either side. Hopefully people would use it sensibly. So the main issue for me is HGV traffic and the site access. So if we could resolve the site access for the build coming off the A19, I'm looking at Mark, is that where you were quite happy?
That's what I would like to see, but I do recognise we might not be able to force that issue. We can only say to officers, in my opinion, from what I've heard from officers, what we can do is, if we approve this today, we ask officers to try and work with Persimmon to ensure construction traffic, where possible, comes from the A19 rather than from Low Eggborough Road.
Can I summarise that there is an alternative, and that is that we could agree to say we're minded to approve this subject to the conditions and the 106 agreement put forward by the officers, but we're minded to do that on the basis that an additional condition would be included, which would ensure that the construction traffic came from the main road, and that failing that, they would have to bring it back to us if they couldn't achieve that. So that would be an alternative suggestion, but I invite someone to move something.
I don't know if this is precisely what you're after, but in terms of condition 12, the construction management plan, part 7 of that condition states details of the routes to be used by HGV construction traffic and highway condition surveys on these routes. That's what needs to be provided. would you be happy, or something to consider? Would this make you happy tonight or this afternoon? Adding a sentence onto that, which says, which shall be taken from the A19 unless acceptable to the local highway authority. Would that unacceptable? Sorry, I wrote that down but didn't say it. Sorry. Yes, I meant unacceptable. Thank you. Yes.
That would seem a way forward to me, Chairman.
So I'm just trying to resolve with the solicitor whether or not that's actually a valid condition.
Totally think I'll make.
Yeah. Is it the unacceptable that's throwing the spanner in the works?
No, I think my problem with it, councillor, is that it's not, doesn't strike me as a particularly clear condition. I don't think you can have a condition that says we'd like this to happen, but if it doesn't, then never mind.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, we're just sort of debating the wording of the current condition and what members are looking to achieve. And I think we're at the position where it's very difficult to add in tail pieces like that to that condition. So my advice to the committee would be that you either accept the application as proposed with the conditions as proposed, which details in the construction plan the applicants have heard members' comments, highways have heard members' comments, and they seek to achieve an access through the A19 if it can be achieved. But because there's other factors at play that need to be considered, the alternative, if members are not comfortable in the conditions as proposed, that members either look at a deferral for that to be considered properly by highways and the applicants to look at whether or not it can be compelled to come in off the A19, or you do a minded to, subject to that conversation taking place, and delegate the authority to officers to make the decision on it.
Go ahead, councillor Warnigan.
So, for clarity, because it sounds like we're minded to go along with this, but for clarity, if the applicant doesn't agree to what we're wanting to condition, is that going to mean we refuse it?
There's it doesn't mean that it needs to be refused. Obviously, it depends on the wording of the resolution, but if it was, for argument's sake, minded to, subject to a condition whereby it needs to achieve that, if in the event that it couldn't be achieved, it could be brought back to members, and it is at that point you would have to consider whether or not it is so fundamental to the application that the access comes in off there that you would look at refusal. You wouldn't say now, if you can't do it, it's refused. It would have to come back and be considered and reasoned at that point.
Thank. Apologies, I thought I'd spoken over you, Arnold. I just want to say that I think if we defer it again, this application has been in for an awful long time, and another deferral is probably not helpful. So I am happy to move the recommendation as printed. The applicant is here today and has heard our comments. The highways officer is here today, has heard our comments. The planning officer has heard our comments. If they can achieve something behind the scenes, that's good. But as it presently stands, if we are minded to refuse it because the access can't come in off the A19, I'm sorry, the inspector will not side with us. We will get another kick in and we will get more costs awarded against us. So that's my opinion. I move it as printed with the comments that others have heard. If access can come in off the A19 for construction traffic, that's good for everybody in Edinburgh. And indeed, I suspect for the applicant.
Do I have anyone to second that? Very well. Do I have any other proposals?
Chairman, I'm not comfortable, and I totally respect Vicky Day's report and her involvement in this, but I'm a very practical person, as you can tell by the state of my hands. I did a 7-point turn at that location on an area that's not going to be widened, because whilst I was trying to get out, an Ocado vehicle came to do delivery. I just think that there's a point in, I'm not settled about any of this, because if I hadn't done the site visit, I probably would be going along with approval now. But because I've done that site visit, I can't ignore the reality. So I am struggling with this, Chairman. I haven't in my head got an alternative other than to propose a refusal on the highways grounds. And I'm going to then I know what the answer will be to that. So I'm just letting you know I'm not 100% behind this.
Councillor Paraskos, then we really must come to some decision.
Right. Thank you. Just for clarity, Martin, could you tell me what the condition is as it stands at the moment?
Condition 12 is very lengthy, but point 7 states details of the routes to be used by HGV construction traffic and highway condition surveys on this route. End quote.
Can I ask another question and then hopefully I'll shut up?
Oh, you will.
So if after the survey they're found to be unacceptable, what happens?
Reference to a survey is, so before development starts, a survey of the condition of the highway is taken. That's for example, if you have HGVs driving on highway verges and they chew up the highway verge, it's so that the local highway authority can say the applicant needs to correct the damage. That's what the survey refers to. So truly speaking, in terms of what members have been debating tonight, the condition is quite open-ended, where it says details of the routes to be used by HGV construction traffic. So I appreciate it leaves it quite open-ended, and it leaves it to your officers to decide if you leave the condition as printed.
As it stands, I've only got one proposition before me. It's from Councillor Crane. It's to approve the application in accordance with the officer's recommendation, which I'll second. Are there any other propositions other than that? In that case, I think we'll have to go to the vote because we haven't got anything else to vote on. So all those in favour of approval? Against? Well, in that case, it comes down to my casting vote, as I understand it. And it would be ridiculous of me to change the vote I've already made, so I vote for approval. I think that concludes discussion of that application. So I think we're now probably at the point where we can say that there are no other items on the agenda. The date of the next meeting is Thursday, the 20th of November, 2025 at 2 p.m. And the meeting is closed at 2:10. Thank you.